This is aisle 42. Years ago, the international section of our grocery stores held some remarkable discoveries. But now the flavors and inspiration found in traditional plant-based recipes from around the world are found throughout the grocery store, even in the ketchup aisle. On this episode of Aisle 42, I talk with founder Richa Gupta from Good Food for Good, and we talk about her passion for family eating that's full of variety and nutritious choices that everyone, even our kids, can enjoy. We explore her innovative approach to creating convenient, wholesome pantry staples that are packed with organic ingredients, free from added sugars, soy, corn syrup, gluten, dairy, and preservatives. She walks us through her Whole30 approval approach. We talk about her favorite Indian, Mexican, and Italian sauces, and we cover some really important ground with their Buy One, Feed One initiative. You're going to love listening in. Here's Richa from Good Food for Good. I'm so glad we're able to finally connect, Richa. We've bumped into each other at a couple food shows over the years, but now we have a chance to have a proper chat. I'm excited to talk to you about your beautiful product and the impact that your team is making. And I'd like to officially welcome you to the Aisle 42 podcast by asking, if you were to imagine the perfect grocery store of the future, what would it look like?
That is, first of all, I'm honored to be here. Let's start with that. The future grocery store for me would be full of variety of produce, lots of greens, perhaps have recipe cards that talk about, or videos running that talk about how to actually use that produce. Because I know many people who still don't know how to take fresh ingredients and convert them into delicious food. So I see future grocery stores to be able to give us or inspire us to make those dishes, to use all this beautiful stuff that nature has intended for us.
That sounds really wonderful. I like the approach. Recipe cards, little videos, little tutorials along the way, a guided journey through the grocery store.
Totally. I mean, everyone is confused about what am I making for dinner tonight? Imagine going into a grocery store, you see a recipe and you have everything lying right there.
And, we're very repetitive with what we buy. We buy very habitually and we're comfortable with certain brands. We know our family likes certain brands. They don't, they won't get wasted if we buy them usually. And so we can get really stuck. And when we want to break out of that, a lot of people can feel really paralyzed by it. I think that, especially given that things like prep time and storage and different cooking methods, all these things can really add up. On top of a busy life and a busy family, it can be really, really tricky. So I like that approach.
Totally. And the more I've learned about nutrition, it talks about variety being essential for a healthy gut. It is not as much about how much protein you're eating, how much carbs you're eating. The more variety you eat, I think they say roughly about 40 different plants a week. If you can get that much variety in your diet, your gut is good. But most of us get like 10, right? We stick to our carrots, peas, peppers, potatoes, onion, garlic, like handful. We can count what we buy on a weekly basis. So, I hope someone is listening who has a grocery store and creates that now.
Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. So, Good Food for Good. You guys have a wonderful lineup. Why don't you take a moment and walk us through what you guys make and why you make it?
So we like to call what we create are the best pantry staples that you can find. And the whole idea was to make it easy for everyone to enjoy flavors without spending hours and hours in the kitchen. So when I started the company, my daughter was 4 years old. She'd started to eat, all kinds of food. And I had a busy career and I was avoiding dairy, sugar, just for my health's sake. And when I tried to look for shortcuts to make my life easy, I really couldn't find many other than a pasta sauce and soy sauce. There was pretty much nothing that I would call wholesome or that I felt comfortable feeding my own child. So that's how Good Food for Good was born. So we have a line of condiments, which is ketchups and barbecue sauces, no added sugar. We only use dates to sweeten. We have a line of Indian sauces. That's my heritage. Again, making Indian food can sometimes be overwhelming. with all the ingredients that are required to make it. So I just wanted to make it easy. We have a line of Mexican sauces, and we have a line of world's first pasta sauce with pumpkin seeds. So pumpkin seeds add the protein to the sauce without the meat, and it's actually the same amount of protein that you would get from a meat sauce, but with added benefit of seeds.
That's amazing. I really love that. I think that when good food companies, or good food for good, can jump into the meal space, and and I say that because there's a lot of emphasis and focus on innovation in the snacking world, but when it comes to meal prep, like those meal occasions where we need the calories, we need the nutrients, we need a lot of the things that our bodies need. It can be that's where lives get a little bit more complicated. So that sauce with protein included, plant-based protein, I think that's a beautiful thing. Now, when I look at some of your packaging, there are many certifications or highlights or callouts that I'm very familiar with. There's one that's a Whole30 approved. You got to walk us through that because I'd never seen it before, and your product was the first to highlight it for me. So, what does Whole30 approved mean?
For sure. So Whole30 is, I should say, eating program. I don't want to use the word diet because they don't want to use the word diet. So it's like a reset, let's put it that way. It's a 30-day reset started by Melissa Hartwig, where you don't eat grains, you don't eat sugar, you don't eat alcohol, no dairy, no legumes either. So it's a very restrictive diet. And the whole idea is if you eat like that for 30 days, you would take care of, it will take care of your inflammation and no sugar alcohols either. And with inflammation and all other things that your body is going through, you will feel healthier after that. That's the whole criteria, that you take away anything that causes inflammation in your body. And at that time, when I started the company, paleo was very popular, keto was very popular. But some of the ideas on what Whole30 disapproved worked well for where my brand was going. So I didn't believe in like stevia or sugar alcohols because anything that I read about these new to the world sugar alternatives didn't convince me that it's right product for children. They are hormone disruptors, they impact your gut microbe. There's several things, and they're new to the world. They have not been tested enough to actually know how they impact us in the long run. So I aligned well with Whole30's philosophy, and that's the reason we got Whole30 approval on our product.
Very interesting. Yeah, thanks for the share on that one. Now, you guys lean into organic more and certainly more loudly than most. Food companies that are doing good things for people and the planet always have more constraints than those that don't. Can only imagine how difficult it is to stay focused on a supply chain that is so dedicated to organic. Can you just walk us through a little bit about the journey of either migrating into organic or always just sticking with organic ingredients as you kind of go through building out these sauces?
Yeah, I am glad you pointed out the logistical challenges of being 100% organic, which is what all our products are. There are trade offs that we had to make. When we initially started, our spices were not organic. And when we started looking for a lot of Indian and Mexican spices, it was very challenging to find organic sources for everything. So we had to make a few compromises, or when we found a supplier, we bought in bulk to last us for a long period of time because we didn't know if we would get that supply again. There's certain products that we have not been able to launch because we just couldn't find a supplier that could supply those ingredients as certified organic. It is a challenge, but overall, I do feel organic is not just good for us as humans, but also for the planet. You already are aware of, like, I know, Kerwin, you are so much into the food world. You know how organic practices help keep the soil as nourished as possible. And we believe in, leaving the planet better, if not worse, right? Or do not take away as much from the planet as what we have been taking for years now. And I think just sticking to organic helped us keep true to that promise that good food for good was meant to do.
I wonder, I guess it's one of those situations where People want to do all sorts of initiatives. They want to give back. They're very philanthropic. There's good people out there, but when the food supply chain isn't organic and it's in fact an extracting harmful process, sometimes I just worry that people maybe are distracted with yet another recycling program. I'm like, hey, we need to focus on, like the core pieces. And I feel like organic is really one of them.
Yeah.
It's a really important baseline. In fact, recently I feel like regenerative organic is starting to come up in more and more conversations, which is wonderful. Let's do that. Let's lean into that healing practice of farming and other initiatives. But it all starts with organic, just straight up every day organic. So appreciate the way you and your team have leaned into that. In your product lineup, would you be willing to share with us which product is like the most popular? I'm going to make a guess and I'll say it out loud first, and then you can totally agree with me or you can tell me I'm crazy. But I feel like, is your ketchup your number one seller?
That's correct.
Yes. I nailed it. I would have no reason to know that other than I hear people talk about it all the time. The one that I talk about all the time is your butter chicken, which is remarkable and dairy free, which I'm so grateful for. And it's really, really delicious. And I've made butter chicken all sorts of different ways. And one time I used a recipe offline and I was making it, I was in the kitchen kind of going, all of a sudden I realized I was making a recipe for like 40 people. It was one of these family event recipes, or I didn't toggle the little, calculator to like make it for 3 people. Anyway, so butter chicken was around for a while. I love butter chicken. I love your sauce. But okay, let's go back to the ketchup. So ketchup is one of these categories where most people know that standard ketchup has a lot of things in it that they shouldn't have. Well, it has sugar, a lot of sugar. Yours doesn't, and yours tastes amazing. What was the process like of bringing ketchup? Because that's a crazy category, not one that I would venture into very quickly or
No,
lightheartedly. So obviously you're going, it's like going into the dragon's den. Talk to us about ketchup. What's it been like putting that out into the world?
it hasn't been easy. Hasn't been easy. That's not the first product that we launched. Our Indian sauces were definitely before ketchup, and it was actually inspired by some of our early customers because we were using dates in our sauces. They asked me, "Can you do a ketchup?" Because my child eats so much ketchup and it has so much sugar. So we started working on recipes, and it was our consumer base or our test market was kids. Every time we would make a sample, we would have some kids try it to see if they would like it or not. End of the day, a lot of kids consume ketchup, and ketchup in obnoxious quantities. And I would say if your child eats broccoli with ketchup, I would rather let them have broccoli than than take the ketchup away and then they stop eating broccoli. That's how we got into the category. I don't think I did enough research before launching. It was meant to be a product that satisfied my consumer needs. And that's how I've always been. The focus of the brand has always been very consumer centric. So we have this customer in mind who really cares about and that's our real consumer. We call her Lisa. She really cares about what she puts in her body. She avoids sugar. She eats organic. She is not eating dairy for health reasons or for whatever reasons, but is very conscious of what she's putting in her body. So my whole goal has become to make her life easy. And that's the consumer that we tend to attract. It's a consumer who really, really cares about what they prioritize food and what they put in their bodies. So I've just always stayed in my lane. Yes, there is competition in the market, but there's competition in no matter where you launch, no matter what you do. Which is actually a good thing. It means there is market that exists. If you have a product which is the only one of its kind, it sometimes does not work that well for you. So it's good to have competition. We never say we are Heinz competitor. We're nowhere close, neither in terms of flavor nor in terms of pricing. It's a condiment alternative for people who really care about what they're putting in their body. I'm not trying to say, I am the next Heinz. That was never my ambition or my goal. My goal was to serve Lisa.
So I have to go back for a second here. You just said ketchup on broccoli. Do
Yeah,
people do that? Is that a thing?
yeah,
That's never
kids.
happened in my life. I've never seen it. I didn't know that it was a thing.
It is a thing. And I have had customers, some of the customers send me videos of kids just dipping their chicken finger or whatever they were eating in ketchup, licking the ketchup, and then using the food as a spoon to eat our ketchup. And those things just make my day. When people send me, like a kid enjoying it, makes my day.
I love it. Okay, yes. I mean, I've seen, my daughter scoops it with ketchup with her finger. Okay,
Finger.
but I never thought broccoli would get into the mix. So that's wild. Yeah, it took me a while to find my cooking rhythm to get my daughter excited about vegetables. We're there now. Now she's 10 and she eats her vegetables first, which is a miracle. And she's not trying to just suffer through it. She's excited. And whenever we sit down, if not everyone's seated at the table at the same time, like if she's usually there first, which that's a nice thing to have. There's a rule in our house that you can sneak food off your plate before the meal has started if it's vegetables. So you can't sneak anything else. But if someone's coming to the table late and you're hungry, you're allowed to eat your vegetables first with no rules around vegetables really. So that's worked out well. But yeah, if vegetables are getting used as a serving utensil for ketchup, that's interesting. All of your sauces are in glass jars. I'm guessing that was a very intentional decision by you, given that the condiment space is full of other types of packaging. A lot of squeeze bottles. There's a lot of squeeze bottles and plastic containers. Talk to us about glass.
Yeah, for sure. We've been asked since the time I launched the ketchup to put it in a squeeze bottle. And I intentionally, maybe it's a good business decision, but again, good food for good is more about just making good business decisions. We are about creating food or creating a business that's good for the planet, that's good for us, that's good for, community at large. Overall, with all the recycling initiatives that have happened, only 9% of the plastic ever created has ever been recycled. It is more expensive to recycle plastic than create new plastic. It is not something that makes a good business decision for recyclers either. So that just gets everything we use in plastic, whether it's a small pouch, a single wrapper, it all goes to waste, to landfills. And as a company that wants to not create more waste, we decided to choose glass. It is more expensive for us. The recycling rate for glass is also low. It's about 33%. We can still do more, but reusability of glass is a lot more than plastic. So a lot of people I know use our jars as spice jars. A lot of glass that comes into my house, actually, I have a shelf full of empty glasses, and most people like us have a shelf full of empty glass jars because we don't want to throw them and we are finding occasions to use those glass jars. That's the reason we stuck with glass. And until date, I have not found an option that could replace glass that does not destroy the planet anymore.
Well, I appreciate it. And it's not an area that's easily tackled, and you guys are doing it beautifully. I don't have a shelf full of glass jars, but we have used one of your butter chicken sauce jars for pencil crayons. The problem is you have a tall jar, and as the pencil crayons get used, they get shorter and shorter and shorter. And so, we that didn't last forever. I'm sorry to say it didn't stay on my kid's desk for longer than, a few weeks, but we tried.
Yeah, yeah.
Did
It works fine for spices. So try spices.
I love it. That's a great idea. I really like it. And my wife will get to use the label maker. That's one of her
Yeah,
greatest
okay.
joys is label
I
making.
love it too. Yeah, I love those label makers.
You have an initiative that is a buy one, feed one initiative. And I've heard this in other formats and other ways of description, but was a new one, or at least the way you approach it was refreshing. Would you share with us a little bit about that program?
So again, as the name suggests, good food for good. So there is a for good part of everything we do. And when I started the company, I learned a lot about hunger, how hunger is one of the most solvable problems that the world has. We have enough food in this world. It's not just not distributed well. So it's distribution of wealth issue more so than we don't have enough food issue. So the idea of good food for good was how can we help food fight hunger, right? Like, which is technically with food. So every time you buy our product, we feed a person in need. We have partnerships with food banks in Canada, India, and US. So we give them the amount of money that they need to give someone a meal with every purchase. We've donated over 2 million meals. If anybody talks about success of business or my personal success, I like, this is one part that I really feel if I was doing anything else in the world, I don't think I would have been able to figure out a way to feed 2 million people in need. So if one thing Good Food for Good has done right is have that initiative, do something that I personally wouldn't have done if this was not the case.
Well, you do lots of good things. So excited about that one as well.
Thank you.
Here's a fun one for you. If there could be any celebrity out there in the world that would suddenly, miraculously, on their own initiative, do an endorsement on their social channel for your product, which celebrity would you want to have do that?
He lives in Vancouver.
Let me guess. Ryan Reynolds?
Yes.
Yeah, he's like Jesus Jr., isn't he?
I know.
Yeah,
I know.
that
So
guy.
if he's listening, or if you know him.
Yes, I don't know Ryan personally. Okay, but is it Ryan or is it Deadpool? Which one?
Ryan.
Okay, just straight up Ryan. All right, that's okay. Good deal. For those that are shopping online or in store, where can consumers find all your wonderful sauces?
So in Canada, we are available pretty much all across Canada in most retailers. You can find us in Loblaws, you can find us in Real Canadian Superstore. In out west, we are in Thrifties, Whole Foods Market, Sobeys, Safeway, Longo's, Metro. Yeah, pretty much, and online at Natura Market and some of the other online retailers. In US, you can find us in Whole Foods all across United States, and then we are in banners all across spotty distribution. So like Save Mart in California, there is Safeway and Albertsons divisions in the South, Central Market, Hannaford. So, all around smaller retailers.
That's awesome. I love it. I love seeing you guys growing. It was maybe 2-3 years ago when I first came across your brand. Since then, I feel like you're just taking over the world. So congratulations to you and your team for everything that you're doing and the way you do it. It's so wonderful for people and the planet. Really appreciate the time.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Corwin.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Aisle 42. I hope the next time you're looking to load up your pantry, that you give some of these remarkable sauces a chance. To learn more about everything Richa's team is doing, go to goodfoodforgood.ca. Okay, that's it for me. I'm Corwin Hebert from Ethical Food Group, and I'll see you in the future.